Hello everybody, I'm Alex McCracken, Pumpkin Jesus. It's time for a pumpkin patch update. It is now August the 10th, 2017. Exactly 8 days since the infamous hailstorm that pummeled my plants. And we're going to see how they're doing today. And there's a lot of variation here in the pumpkin patch now as far as how each plant is doing. So we're going to start, we're in the good half of the pumpkin patch right now, dome number 1, where we have the first pumpkin we're going to take a look at here is Mithoni, who is on the 1843 Werner A plant. I'm going to flip the camera around. We'll look at the plant first. I've taken off a lot of badly broken and rotting leaves. There's still some bent ones remaining. If they haven't totally collapsed yet, I'm leaving them. My theory is that I'm just trying to give the plant every chance I can to reabsorb any nutrients out of those leaves before they totally collapse, and that I'm cutting them off because they will start to rot. The leaf stems are hollow on these plants, and you can see, like, here's an example of a damaged leaf stem. Looks like I got hit by some hailstones, I'm sure. And eventually that'll fill up with water once a hole opens up in it. There's a hole here already. And then when it rains, water will get inside there, travel all the way down to here where it collects. And then with water laying in here over time, that'll rot. The rot will eventually go into the vines if you don't take care of it right away. So I've been going through here every day when I have time and taking off probably, I'm going to say 80 to 100 leaves per day total. Most of them are coming from over there, but we'll go look at that plant in a minute. But I'm also right now letting, luckily, we have some new tertiaries popping up in here, ones that I missed early in the season, or new ones that are coming out where if you don't cut them off flush with the stem, sometimes there'll be an extra little bud there that you don't see, and then it'll sprout up later. So we've actually got some decent new little vines popping up here and there. I'm going to let all those go now because I want to try to fill in the plants a little better with some fresh leaves. Even though, you know, in theory it does take some nutrients away from the growing pumpkin. If I don't do that, I'm going to have like very few leaves left in a couple more weeks probably. Although we do have, this is a pretty nice section of the plant out here. This is out past the pumpkin on this part of the vine that goes out this way. There's some decent looking stuff and some older leaves back there that are still in good shape. So this plant's got it's got some room to run yet. Here's the pumpkin. This is Mithoni. I just measured her. I'm looking for my can. Here we go. I just measured Mithoni. She is now growing in the low 20s per day. She was never the fastest grower in the whole pumpkin patch, and now she's slowed down a bit, but she's still looking pretty good. She's estimating now about 825, I think. This is day 45 for her. She's a gorgeous color, and she started getting a lot taller lately. So, you know, I'm hoping if I can keep some leaves healthy on this plant for another 40 days, she could still grow that much longer. And of course the gains will start to decline now over time. But she's still in the low 20s per day. Still got a shot to get to 1200, something like that. And for an orange pumpkin, she actually sounds pretty solid. You can thump on them with like the heel of your hand. And once you've done it a bunch of times, you can kind of tell if they sound hollow or not. It doesn't sound super solid, but it doesn't sound hollow either. So I think that's a pretty solid pumpkin. She's doing all right. So now we're going to look at the one that's probably doing the best right now and has the best plant remaining on it. It's the 2145 McMullen Enceladus. Enceladus is white like most of the 2145 McMullens are. I'm still battling with that soft spot on the bottom. It's under here where I have the fan pointed. I think it's dried up again now. I've scooped it out with my fingernail probably 5 different times now, because it has just kept raining. It hasn't rained in like 3 days now, but we had 1.7 inches with the hailstorm on the 2nd. Then we had another 1.25 inches a couple days after that, and another inch on Monday. So we've had about 4 inches of rain in like a 6-day period. And that was just pretty crazy. So that makes it tough to battle rot, and that's why so many leaf stems rotted too. They were damaged by the hail, and then it just immediately filled up with water every time it kept raining. So that made it tough over the last week to keep these plants healthy. But this one, not bad. Most leaves still standing on those big secondaries before the pumpkin. A lot of decent looking stuff out here past the pumpkin. Also have a few growing tips I'm still letting go out here, so as long as I can keep that soft spot on the bottom from going any deeper. It's about 1 inch deep now. There's your butthole. Starting to lean over on that a bit. This one has slowed down too, I'm sure, because they all did with all that rain and the hail and everything. This one has lost some leaves, but way less compared to the other ones. So I'm still hopeful that this one could have 1,500 pounds in it when it's all said and done. This one is very solid. This one has the genetics to be very thick, just like Wendy was last year. This is Wendy's sister. Look at the stem on this thing. The stem is bigger than the can. So it's day 44 for Enceladus. I'm going to measure her tomorrow. On day 40, here, let me get out my trusty book. Day 40, Enceladus was just shy of 800 pounds. So tomorrow when I measure her, I'm hoping for 900, 9.25, something like that. That would be nice. That would make me happy. So now we're going to step over to the dome where all the carnage is. This is Telesto, which is still a very impressive pumpkin. It's hard to tell at this point when Telesto is getting bigger, but I was pretty shocked the last time I measured this. As you can see, this is the best part of the plant right here. And there's very little left in there. All those leaves rotted. There's more that I haven't even cleaned up yet. Just a big mess. Got a few out here. There's a couple new ones trying to grow. Not a lot of hope on this plant for new growth or anything. There's a little bit here. I'm gonna let grow whatever it wants to, but this plant was pretty decimated. And it's really a shame, because this one, I could feel 2,000 pounds coming from this one before the storm happened. This one was really taking off, and the storm has really slowed it down. Although I haven't measured it. Let's see, today's day 43 for Telesto, and on day 40 it was estimating 826, exactly what Mathoni is estimating right now, 5 days older. There's one of the local jerks. Shut up! So, I don't know. Telesto is still growing. I don't know how much at this point. But let's take a look at, the really impressive thing about her was that the circumference on day 40 was 160 inches, which is just massive for day 40. And we're going to take a look at the stem on this one now, because the stem is like splitting apart. That's why I have this fan over here. And it still does have, it looks like, yeah, some fresh sap in there, which means it's still growing. There wouldn't be sap coming out of it if there wasn't water going into the pumpkin. It's still growing, probably still splitting. I have, see right there, it's wet down here, it's the sap coming out of it. It's just like clear and jelly-like. Sap, that's what that is. It's not rot, thank God. As far as I could tell, like, I probed around in there the best I could and everything, and tried to feel around for rot, tried to see how deep this goes. It doesn't go very deep. Didn't feel like there was any rot in there. It's dry in there, it's dry there. I shot peroxide in there and it came out the bottom. So that means it's air's able to flow through there. So just keep this fan on it all the time now. Move that back over. And whatever water and nutrients are still flowing into this thing, I'm just going to consider it a bonus at this point, because this plant, this is like the worst looking plant I've ever seen at this point in the season. So we're going to measure her in 2 days. She's 43 days old. And we'll see what happens. So over here is probably like the next worst looking plant. 1795 McCracken. A lot of these leaves, what I decided to do when I was going through here last weekend to clean up broken stuff, I did stand up and tie some leaves. Like those over there, you can see are staked up and tied. If they were just leaning over and they weren't bent or broken, that seemed to be working pretty good. But any that were bent, as soon as I tried to stand them up, they broke. So like for example, here's a bent one. It's now probably starting to rot. I've got more to clean up in here. More leaves are going down. I just decided if they're laying on the ground and they're facing upwards and they're still getting sun and photosynthesizing and stuff, probably doing more harm than good trying to stand them up. So I cleaned up everything that was broken, decided to leave a lot of those just laying like they are, and it's kind of how I've decided to roll with it. There's just not a lot constructive you can do sometimes when something like this happens. Just keep the vines from rotting. So this is Rhea on 1795 McCracken. Yeah, she had a little bit of, there's a little bit of sap and cracking going on there on the stem. Try to get the fan up on that a little better. I don't, just get a table or something for it to sit up on. And a couple little cracks here in the shoulders as it was growing. This one's also a very solid pumpkin. I measured it. This is day 41 for her, so I measured it yesterday. And was right around 764 pounds. She slowed down to the 20s as well, around 23 pounds a day since the storm. So that's that. Oh, what I did want to say about that one over there, Telesto, is that the last time I measured it, and it was estimating about 826, it had actually grown almost 30 pounds a day in the 4 days following the hailstorm. That was very impressive, but it was growing super fast before that. So it was still a decent slowdown, and I'm sure all the rain that we got gave it a surge. So yeah, this is like the year that could have been for me, but I'm trying to stay positive and just keep pushing them as much as I can. The amazing news is I still have 4 pumpkins going on August 10th. I've never had that before. I'm usually down to 3 or 2 by now. So, you know, I'm going to try not to think about the weights I could have had this year and just be happy with what I get at this point. And I'm already starting to think about next year and blah blah blah, what I can do better, because I'm always thinking about that. I wake up at 3 a.m. sometimes and start planning next year in my head. Here's the field pumpkin right now. I haven't named it yet. It's 16 days old. Doesn't seem to be growing that fast. Not sure why. It's got a gigantic, healthy plant, and this is the only pumpkin on the whole plant as far as I can tell. It's kind of a jungle in there, but I've looked around the best I could. And all right, that's the pumpkin patch update for today. I still haven't shown you the watermelon, but I swear I will sometime. The watermelon is actually doing pretty decent. It's around 100 pounds now. About 37 days old. That plant looks pretty crappy too, but the melon's still growing 2-3 pounds a day. So I still got a shot to get to about 150 pounds with the watermelon, I hope. So that's my giant pumpkin patch update for August 10th. I'm Alex McCracken, Pumpkin Jesus. And keep watching, because as usual, you never know what the hell's going to happen. Thank you, and have a great night, and we'll see you next time.